Hello, everyone, and welcome again. And this time, I borrowed the title of my favorite movie, Jeet, Sikandar. And besides the fact that I love the movie and I can watch it for so many times, I thought it resonates with so much with the world of work that we live in. So before I start off with the stories that I generally come to with, I have a reflective exercise for all of you. I'm going to finish up in the next 20 minutes. In that time, if you can hang on, think of about, let's say, three stints of yours, or let's say 3 years of experience of yours. Or if you just out of college, think of those years where you thought you were made to feel like a winner, or think of 1 or 2 years where you felt like you were treated badly or disregarded. You're not treated as tall as you wanted to be treated as. Maybe three on this side, three on that side, where you felt you were a winner, and if you have that many, or 1 or 2, will be good enough. And in the end, if you can possibly put it in the comments in your own reflective way, I'm sure nobody wants to share, very openly about which those years were, but I'm sure there'll be reflections of those. Let's say if you have top 3 winning moments and top 3, I can't say losing, but not so proud moments. Because I'm going to share with you my top 3 as I rank it, what I thought or I felt as winning at that point of time, and where I really felt disregarded and lost. So my 3 will be coming at the end of this 20 minutes. So hang on till then if you can. And here we go in terms of what I had compiled for you today. When I look at the reflections that I made, the first thing that came to my head was, let's say, college. Do you remember in college what happened? You know what happened in college when your best, students came up? What happened to them? The guys who were possibly the favorites of teachers, the favorites of teachers who were always possibly who did the assignments, who came on time, asked the right questions, and whom we always called as first benches, who were always found in the library. And I'm sure by the time we hit college, we all got used to it, and whom the teachers adored, right? So they were the so-called at that point of time people whom looked up to. We also maybe looked up to because the teachers looked up to them, and they were always given that special treatment, didn't they? Right? But I thought it ended in college till I joined my first job, and when I came to, let's say, the sales role that I was in, I joined the workforce where there were quarterly meetings, and when we came to quarterly meetings, uh, we were newcomers, and we were watching how the bosses in the hotel room that we were meeting and the super bosses were greeting the old colleagues who came in. Some got handshakes, some got hugs. You can call it cultural, or some people had more relationships, you can say. However, only when the meeting started and the discussions opened up, we realized there were two classes of people in that room. One were racehorses, and one were, if I had to call so, also ran. And we became very clear as to how they were spoken to and how the other bunch of people were spoken to. And that was the first time I realized, okay, here is a class of its own as well. It was not just in college. Yeah, I wasn't naive to think the world where everybody would be equal, but still, that was the first expression and impression that I got of how people were treated differently because of how they're performing. In 6 months' time, interestingly, we were in the same hotel again, this time as experienced people. Few of us were called one to one with the super boss and his boss, national sales manager. Some of us were not called. And, my bestie was also called. And as my bestie was called in front of all of us, obviously, he was called, and we were wondering, who else will be called. And as this moved on, we saw that it wasn't that everybody was called. The remaining 30 of us were praying and wanting to know what was happening, as because the word got out. The guys who were called in came and told us what happened. My bestie told me, Kamal, I was told they don't need passengers in this bus. And the next 2 days that we were there, we were worried as to when will we be called to that place, or to the manager's room. And the best part is his manager was sitting there. The manager's boss and the boss's boss, 3 of them were telling him that he was a passenger. And another 3, 4 people, I don't know what they told them. All we know is another 3 months' time after that meeting was over, they were not to be seen. They were either pushed out or they left on their own. I don't know, but It was clear that what treatment was meted out to them in that quarterly meet, decided their fate. Now we were in all field sales, remember, and we look forward to these quarterly meets as that was the time where we could stay in five-star hotels, big cities, catch up with some of our batchmates, colleagues whom we liked a lot. How once we saw these forums becoming a clear differentiator of race horses and if I have to call them card pullers, as it appeared to me, we started to desist those meetings. Clearly because of the performances, as you know, it's cyclical, can go up and down. But just the thought of being there when you don't know whether you're performing or not, was always in the hands of a manager. We felt at least those days. So that was one forum I can remember where there was a clear differentiation between as I call race horses and cart pullers. The learnings for me from that were, I'm sure every team or organizations know that for various reasons, not everybody all the time will be performing on top of the table, achieving 100%. But we keep pushing people, don't we? As we think that's the only way we get performance or productivity up. Now, of course, if you look at the survey that I put out today on LinkedIn, most of the people who voted, they said one thing predominantly. Almost 60% of them said performance needs recognition. That is why this Jo Jeet Sikandar is the way to go. Now, I'm a great fan of awards. I myself, in every organization I worked or where I led teams, I set up so many awards because I love awards. So monthly, quarterly, annually, you name it, there would be awards. And there would be annual trips, whether it is to a Goa or a overseas location, to some exotic place where the winners feel good. We do all the song and dance there, and every aspect of uh, rewarding performance was done. Think of what all we do for people who are performers. We do grade increments, bonuses, quarterly lunches with CEOs if you can, promotions, awards, all these things, right? When we do all these things, we believe two things that can happen to them. One, we recognize top performance, which many of you have voted there, and it keeps them motivated, definitely so. Two, it makes others to aspire to be there. We can't deny that, can we? But I believe it also does many other things. One is it creates a culture of the winner takes all. That is how it gets communicated. Two, it creates pressure on the rest of them that they aren't there yet, right? It is a good and a bad thing. Good in the sense that, like, if you uh, follow neuroscientists, they say that many papers say that performance happens through a bit of anxiety and pressure. And in some organizations and contexts, we possibly overdo things when people break down. But they say, people who even run these 100 meters sports during their trials, they actually run it against somebody to get that competition up to keep a bit of a high pressure. And I believe they do better when there is that kind of a pressure. Maybe we all have borrowed it from neuroscience. I can't say so, but our template has been that when we create few winners, others will aspire to be there. That is how we go about creating that war cry that uh, we have to win at any cost. And at the same time, there are many people working in the company. Why only few winners? Have you ever thought about it? Why only few winners? And we keep saying that everybody is an asset. Everybody is an asset in the company, and that everybody count kind of a statement we make. But when I reflect upon, I ask myself, do we really behave like that every day? For example, do we give meaty critical projects to players who didn't do well in one team went to another franchise and did so very well there. How do you explain that? Is it leadership? Is it culture? Or context that makes a winner or loser, as we can call it? Once in one of the assignments that I took, there was this guy who resigned 3 months after I joined. I did not have much visibility to him because he was reporting to somebody else. When I asked the HR team, they said he was so performer. So nobody noticed him leaving. He also had a new boss coming and to whom he was supposed to report to. I don't think the new boss cared about him either, because I remember it was a business which was collectively doing badly. Leaderless for most of the time. There's a lot of churn, and we never thought it could be a context of the leader or really the context of business. We never asked possibly the question as to why is the business doing so badly when all these things were happening. This guy left. He went and joined a competitor. And you won't believe in the next 2 years, the business that he created, we couldn't create for the next 7 years in our company, what he went and created in the competition. Now, was it him, the leader, the context, the new culture that made him successful? You know the answer. Another part that when, as much as we say that, we had to have a balance of how do we manage performers and non-performers per se in a company. I'm just wondering, did I lose you guys for a moment? No, that's lucky. Sorry. I once sat in an airport where one of the managers came to resign. He was considered top talent, and given that role, in a year or so, he had taken up the role, and he was really struggling. His peer group were winning awards, and they were given all the recognitions that they deserved. And he had just left his previous stint, a very successful one within the company, and taken on a new role. And it must have been a year or so where he was traveling weekends to his home, weekends in that location that he was managing, and trying to give his best. And it was a difficult assignment in our view. And almost a year and a half, we still found him struggling and not doing so well. The review meetings were not kind, and he was getting to understand that it was getting very stormy for him, and he was under the pump. And he got the wind of it. And like I said in the airport meeting that I had with him, he sort of offered to resign. He's saying, look, if this is becoming too heavy for the organization, and he cannot anymore enjoy the fruits of labor that he put behind, he rather leave. Out of gratitude, what he had done to the organization, and maybe at that point of time we were doing well also, I somewhere felt we could cover the gap through others, so and obviously, at that point of time, the way he said it was very difficult for me to sort of accept that, such a good guy had to be, let go. So I told myself that we will possibly work through other teams and get the performance right. And I still believe that honestly, all of us who are in leadership roles have this space. We can cover buffer people for people who are lagging. Every organization will have some units performing and some struggling at the same time. But it's natural that we, that like many of you said in the poll today, that performers should be given the attention. They should, right? And we should time to time find a way to cover up for people who are struggling, right? However, the challenge would be for organizations because predominating population of the organization is struggling. Then what do you do? We can't tell everyone, "Acha beta, you're struggling," kind of stuff, because somebody has to be pepped up. And like I said, some amount of stepping up through pressure by showing where they stand. Sometimes some of us perform better, But also, I would say that for some of us, it's the toolkit. You heard the famous saying that all you have is a hammer. Everything looks like a nail. So if we only know how to put pressure, that's what we'll end up doing everywhere and create this culture of you're a loser, you're a winner. Another aspect is about relative performance. What do you do when you have a team which is doing well, but you have, let's say, 8 people and let's say 6 of them are doing well? What would you tell the other 2 who possibly are behind only in the ranking, but actually they're possibly performing? I remember this instance my nephew told me once where he said he was at about 90% of the performance, and the remaining of his team was at 100% at that point of time. And his boss called him and said, "Are you really serious about your career?" And it was only halfway through the year. It's not that the year had gone. He said, "Look, I knew that I will anyhow perform the numbers." But he said, his boss would not come. He said, "Look, everybody has done your numbers. Why haven't you done?" So it is not just about absolutely whether you're done or not. Sometimes we all get stuck into relative performance. Somebody else is doing well, and even though you're possibly almost there, and if you are in the pecking order, let's say if somebody is 100, 98, 97, and you are 94, you still get the stick because on a relative basis, you get called out, don't you? Right? So for me, what he said that reminds me of this relative performance that we all have in hand. That look, compared to him or her, you possibly are here, so you can do better, and that's how we segregate as well, right? So uh, uh, some of the stories that I heard from him about the organization's work for, something that I also shared in the past, where they had this daily sales call, which was called as, or rather, which was ended every day by the salesman just saying, "Perform or perish." You know, so a clear message that you please pull up the socks. That was what was said all the time. So even though in your own right, if you are a winner, sometimes uh, if there are people who are performing better than you, then the relative winner concept, you will become an also ran. So with that, I just also wanted to share with you today the top three winning moments that I promised that I will share with you today. Uh, I think clearly in my first job, uh, I was in the second days, I was among the top 17 sales guys in the company, or some maybe 200 odd sales people. So that I was really treated differently by my bosses, my peers, and that was, I think, if I had to call myself, I had a winning year. It was that. And the second movement would be when I was running a business unit in one of the stints where for 4 quarters, my team actually, out of the 5 parameters the organization had benchmarks, we were on top of it, and we won the award eventually the year. But every quarter we were the number one unit there, and that was a high. If I had to call a, a winning year, that was that. And when I was running a country once in my assignment, by about 6 months into the year, we had already achieved our numbers. And how we felt at that point of time, how the organization treated us. Many of the times, I also felt these winning moments were less about what you felt or what was real. It was always about how others thought about it and how others treated you. So those are my top three winning moments, if you ask me. And where did I feel like a loser? Many times. I think we only take pictures, like I keep saying, when we are in a good mood or we are celebrating. But because I promised you three, I give you three. At least there must be some 10, 15 years where I think nothing happened, according to me. Or I felt like nothing happened, right? So, uh, like I told you that when I was a top sales guy, I got promoted in no time. My first year as manager was very miserable. I felt like a loser. I don't think we did well as a team, and I felt I was discarded. And eventually, I quit. So that was the year I can remember where I felt like I lost or a loser. And like they say, life is a cycle. Remember, I said 4 quarters my team did so well, and the next assignment I took overseas, I saw a huge struggle in terms of attrition, legal cases, whatnot in a foreign country, and I didn't know what to do. And uh, I did not get any heroic welcomes either whenever we visited headquarters. So, or maybe that's the guilt in me that felt so, because it was a struggle. And next 2 years, I did not achieve my numbers at all. So it was hard because in that company, most of the people were performing, and my unit was not doing well for a long time. And it was real life was a struggle. And like I said, it was a karma. After a good stint, I struggled for the next 2 years before things came around. But I really struggled those 2 years and really felt bad about it. And in one of the assignments I took, I remember it was a turnaround assignment, and within the first 6 months, and I never felt this before when I took a new job, but in this place, when I took a new job, and I visited HQ for some of the events, I realized that uh, you know this is a different aura for me, because I thought just 6 months ago I was welcomed into this company, and I saw that that company was depending on two business units for most of its profits, and everybody else like us were like, Bharat mein aao types. You come, so be there type. So I could sense that in the language of the CEOs, of many senior vice presidents of the company. So I said, oh, here is a different classification of people who are performing. And even though I thought I was new and I'll get things around, but the year one in that assignment, I felt, that as though, I was put in some gantry class and treated like that. So that was the third instance that I want to highlight amongst the top three, where I felt that, I was pushed, to think that, I'm not wanted, So most of the times it's about how you feel of how versus what the reality is. It's your own, in my view, uh, experience of others. So if I had to really conclude today, I want to say honestly, I don't know if there is a balance between if we can uh, really get that balance between poor performance and how we actually praise or appreciate uh, the the superstars of the company. I have personally been biased, honestly, and I've always rewarded whom I considered as winners, and maybe I've pushed out people whom I thought were laggards or not putting in efforts. Uh, but like with gray hair and no hair now, uh, of this aging, that I can now at least confidently say that log bure nahi hote hain, but halat bure hote hain, just like they say. Okay. But I guess it takes time for that to sink in, and till that time, it'll always be Jo Jeeta Vai Sikandar. Now, only thing I want all of us to remember is that Hari Baji ko seekna sabko aata hai, and they do it one day, right? But I think it's difficult. I have struggled with that. In my head, it's always Jo Jeeta Vai Sikandar, and uh, clearly uh, try to balance it as much as I can. But like I always say, this is a reminder to myself than giving gyan to all of you that that we can have a balance if we want to, that if we stand by our colleagues, but it's not possible all the time. And our mental makeup, our wiring takes over the fact that we had to be on the side of winners and create more winners. So we give the war cry, push people to the corner of people who are not performing, and divide people. And because that's easy to do, it's difficult to stand that people are not performing and have that conversation. So I'm hoping that with this, I'm reminding myself and all of us that today it could be Jo Jeeta Vai Sikandar, but somebody else because of the halat, leadership, culture, and the context can come back tomorrow here or in some other employer if you don't give them the opportunity, right? So that's happy to hear your experiences, if any, that you want to share today in the comment section. So let's go. So with that, I have to just say thank you because I don't see any real comments here. So I've said whatever I had to say. So thank you all for joining in, and have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye bye.